Thank you, everyone, for staying with us here on Global Television. Our second discussion, straight away, we're joined by Ahmed YAHUZA GETSO. Is joining us live via Zoom from Bauchi, northeast Nigeria, this morning. Thank you, YAHUZA, for joining us on the program this morning. I won't take your time, but let's jump right to it. You and I have had at least 4 or 5 conversations in the last few months about insecurity in the north, but it will appear not so much is being heard with regards to insecurity in the northeast, as we now see in the northwest. Talk to us about this. Then, second, what would have thought after the president's directed the Minister of State, Matawale, to relocate, so to speak, to the northwest? The tension and the heat would have been doused, would have turned down, but that has not been the case. What exactly are the factors driving this development?
Well, there are several factors driving the development, one of which is what I have been saying and I have been talking about, inadequate personnel, which is making it difficult because we have very hardworking security leadership in Nigeria. As far as I'm concerned, the service chiefs are really up and doing, and they are doing all the best they could, even though their best may not be the best, may not be enough. However, they are working hard, but you know, when you are looking for 100 people and you have only 3, you have to utilize the 3 that you have available. That is one. Secondly, the community themselves, those are being hurt. They are not really helping matters because it is among them, the criminals are having informers who are reporting, providing them the right information on the movement of the security personnel when they are trying to take a kind of to protect them. So they are the ones who are providing the information to them. So it is quite difficult and hard to manage. But we cannot say that nothing is being done, because if we say nothing is being done, other people are passing, other people are crossing. Number 3, the leadership of Mieti Allah themselves. Yes, of course, if you keep talking about that Fulani are being hurt, they are being killed, or there is a plan for ethnic cleansing and so on and so forth. So what have you been doing to tell your people in the forest that blunt truth, that what they are doing is wrong? And how are you working hard to mitigate, to find a mitigating factor? And then number 4, the bandits themselves. Yes, of course. I mentioned many times, severally in the last 17 or more than years, that those who are committing those atrocities around those locations, they are citizens and indigenous of those locations. So, and they are known. None of them is a foreigner. None of them is coming from any other state. They are all indigenous of Zamfara, as being certified by Bell Liturgy and many others among their kinfolk. And we all know them, and the communities know who they are and know where they hide. But fortunately and unfortunately, the security personnel are not having kind of the right information from the right people at the right time. So it is always difficult, and it is always hard when you have inadequate personnel. So there is need to conduct a massive recruitment and so on and so forth, so that a massive mobilization can be made. And then probably number 5, the issues around the operation itself. Because if you can cordon all the areas where these guys are operating, you can be able to deal with them decisively, because they are not spread in 100% location, in 100% geographical distribution of Zamfara State, Katsina State, Kaduna State, Niger State, and all other places. No, everybody knows there are specific locations where they are operating. There are specific locations where they are conducting their atrocities. There are specific locations where they can be traced. There are specific locations where they can be managed. So why can't we change the strategy of operation to have a kind of cordoning system whereby they can be coordinated operations will be conducted, and then they can be dealt with. Let's have a targeted target-based operations. This will help in managing and addressing the issue, and it's easier and the best way to manage the subject. And I believe that Nigerian personnel have the capacity, Nigerian personnel have the skills, Nigerian personnel have the ability, and I believe that in Nigeria we have operating system that we can be able to manage this situation and squash and crash down and crack down all the capability, all the ability of these bandits, and deal with it decisively and accordingly. And finally, I can say that probably there are issues of around the judicial system. I still talk about the judiciary because we have not been dealing with people to serve others that have been apprehended that could have served as a deterrence to others. And we have not been holding anybody, and finally, we have not been holding anybody accountable. If the unit commanders, if the operation commanders, if the divisional police officers and the rest of them, if the traditional leaders and other philanthropists who are living around there, and if the community-based approach is to be introduced, I'm sure, I'm confident and optimistic as professionals, we have a strategic process of dealing with this matter and we can handle it and it's possible and we can manage it.
Let me ask you this real quick. When Mr. Matawali tells Nigerians that the government is winning the war against the insurgency, against the banditry, what are the metrics we should be using for that sort of measurement and assessment?
Well, there are a number of several measurements that we can be using. One, we can use the indices of the number of bandits that have been killed since the time when Minister Mutole made that statement. That is one. Secondly, we can measure it by the number of cowardice response we get from the Bell Trilogy and other kingpins who are at the respective locations. Four, we can also measure it by the number of peace activities, peace accord, and the ability of farmers to return to their farmland and be able to manage their resources in many parts of Safa local government, in many parts of Paskari local government, Sabo local government, in both Katsina, Sokoto, Katsina, especially Katsina and Zamfara, Sokoto and others. There are many places from the time when Minister Bello Mutole relocated along with the service chiefs to Sokoto and makes that declaration. There are a number of bandits kingpins who have been clamoring or who has been kind of sending atrocious message and then intimidating government who are now nowhere to be found. They have hide themselves to areas and locations where they cannot be tracked. They have moved away from where they are. We can also measure it by the response that we got recently, whereby a report was saying that a lot of bandits, because of the crackdown on them, because of the attack, because of the ability of the military and other security formations to push into them, they have been relocating to many parts of the Kano city and many parts of other locations in Kano State, whereby almost 26, 27 local governments are now being affected in Kano State. So I think these are part of the major indicators we can use. Even though there may be shortcomings here and there and gaps, you cannot find anything 100%, but you cannot at the same time say that the service chiefs under the leadership of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, are not doing anything. They are doing their best, even though their best may not be enough. But at the same time, they have been requesting for the need to have a massive recruitment. And until and unless we are ready to do so, and until and unless we are ready to depoliticize the operating system, how we manage with this security situation, that is when we can be able to kind of deal with it. So there is need to have a good collaboration and synergy and partnership between the politicians, the security personnel, especially the military, and to have an improved civil-military engagement under the auspices of the civil-military affairs department at the defense headquarters, and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I don't know, but then I think it is high time we look into the issue of security in Nigeria. Now it's spreading from the northeast, northwest to other parts of the country. Let's look at it holistically now. In the papers this morning, we saw that there is an arrangement or somehow a proposal, so to say, to get some fighter jets. Getting those fighter jets, is that what we need right now? Because we're made to understand that most times these terrorists have equipments that are more sophisticated than that of the military. Now, getting this equipment, is that what we need, or there is room for some intelligent informations? Like you said, these people are not far-fetched from some persons who are also members of the same community where these things are happening. So looking at special intelligence reports and getting this equipment, what do you think we need right now? Because the equipment we are talking about right now, it's even 2025.
Well, what we need is five things. One, we need to make huge investment in technology in order to use the drones in gathering, monitoring, tracking, and even attacking or kind of attacking the criminals. We can use it to generate, we need to do huge investment. That is one. Secondly, we need to have massive recruitments because we are understaffed. And we need to have we need to have increase in the number of personnel that we have in the country, whereby they can reach out to those areas. I always advocate that there is need to conduct at least minimum of recruitment of 100 youths between the age of 17, 20, 22, and 25 of age per polling unit. If you have 10 polling units per in political ward, you will have 1,000. If you have 10 political ward in a local government, you will have 10,000. So let's try this in at least 500 local government out of 773 local government that we have in the country, so that we can be able to distribute them accordingly based on the need. And let them be operating and be posted to the respective locations where they came, so they can support the old hands that have been operating there. And then number three, yes, of course, we need the jets. These fighter jets are needed, but we need to kind of have a lot of new technological innovations into it, whereby the jets can be able to fight the guys, because some of them are suspected to have to be in possession of AA, that is anti-aircraft. And if we have this, then there is need for us to be more tactical and more strategic and more sensitive in what we are doing. And finally, we need to hold some people responsible. The local government chairman need to be held responsible and accountable. The divisional police officers, the local security officers, that is the representative of the DSS of the local government, the immigration, the civil defense, and the unit commanders of the military who are manning those areas. Because until and unless we are ready to hold some people accountable, that is when we can be able to have a way forward. Otherwise, we'll continue to beat around the bush.
Of collaboration now with other people that are stakeholder and could be of help as far as this security situation is concerned. Let's talk about the special task force now, the vigilantes. As it is right now, we can see that the fight against terrorism is not just to be left to the maybe the military alone or the security operatives. Now, do you think collaboration with the vigilantes will do any good? Because I'll keep saying this, that sometimes these persons may want to get information. We've had in the past where they said informations link from the military's camp to these people and they do some form of attack on the way. Can we say now, bringing these people together to work with the military may create some form of leakages of information, or you feel it's necessary for the military to work in collaboration with these vigilantes?
You know, it is part of the vision and mission and part of the effort of the serving the present Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. A special department for civil military affairs was established. And one of the purpose of those objective of establishing that unit or that department at the defense headquarters was to have is to have a kind of improved synergy, partnership, collaboration, and kind of synchronized operations with formal and non-formal security formations. I know that the vigilante group of Nigeria have the presence in all the political world and all the polling units in Nigeria. And the problem is their capacity need to be built in terms of intelligence, in terms of armament, in terms of operations, in terms of psychology, in terms of psychometric, and how they should be able to kind of provide related, irrelevant information. So like I mentioned, we are understaffed. We need 100 and we have only 3, or rather at maximum we have 7 out of the 100. So which means we need 93 more to be to fill in the gap. So if we cannot have that, then there is issue. So the issue of partnership and collaboration with the vigilante group and other non-formal structures, hunters association, forest marshal, and the rest of any other available structure that we have, the civil structure, is very, very important and very necessary. And it's timely.
I need to ask you this, Yahuza, because obviously my colleague Ramsey actually was talking about the compromise of Intel, where you eventually now realize that the military has a strategy in place to, as it were, round up some of these criminal elements. And the next thing you know is they turn out to be the ones ambushing troops. Let's talk about fifth columnists, whether it's in the army, in the navy, or I mean the air force, or what have you. How much does that also impact when you have people who are working contrary to the strategies put together or put in place by the military?
You know, it is very easy. What we need is to start responding. When I say responding in terms of prosecution, those unscrupulous elements need to be tactically harnessed, need to be tactically mobilized, need to be tactically identified. And not only identifying them, need to kind of have a quick response strategy whereby they will be dealt with that could serve as a deterrent for both the public unscrupulous element among the public and among the personnel to know that government is ready. And some people, some kind of authorities need to be checked by holding and providing a true strategy of reward and punishment. If we could have been doing so, we could have been far away from where we are. I am telling you, and I'm telling the public, and I'm telling everybody that I am confident that Nigeria have the capacity, Nigeria have the ability, Nigeria have the personnel in the military and other security personnel that are so agile, so patriotic, so optimistic, and they have the capacity that they can manage this situation within 60 days, or at least kind of squash it or crash it down by 65 to 70% within 60 to 90 days. But do we have enabling environment? Do we really have the personnel? Do we have the equipment? How much have we invested in technology? We need to do a lot of investment in technology, and we need to also fish out some of those scrupulous elements among the traditional, religious, among the security personnel, formal and non-formal structure of the security personnel, and deal with them decisively and accordingly. A time has come whereby we have to be ready, and we need to sit to our responsibility. I am saying and I am repeating, none of these guys who are committing these atrocities that are non-indigenous of Zamfara or Katsina or Kaduna or Niger or Kebbi or Sokoto and the rest, they are all indigenous and they are all known. The community members know them. They are not coming through the air. They are not coming through the basement of the ground, or rather whatever you may call it. They are not coming from any hideout. If somebody is trying to tell me that we have anything hideout in northern Nigeria, I used to laugh. Yes, of course. Even if we have the hideout, where is it? How many forests do we have that we cannot be able? We don't have the capacity in terms by our personnel that they can go and conduct operations, cordon operations, and do whatever and deal with it decisively. I told you, and I say it, and I'll repeat it. I know the service chiefs are doing their best, and I know they are up and doing, because and I know that the chief of defense staff is doing very well. The minister of defense, Malam Badr Abubakar, has moved around, advocate to the community leaders, the religious leaders. Minister Bello Mutole have relocated to Sokoto and also keep moving between one community and another, mobilizing the community to provide information. So if communities are not cooperating and they are not providing the right information, and they don't have the confidence and trust on the personnel, and then you don't have adequate personnel to do the needful, then we will be just more moving around the cycle, and then we'll never get rid of it. But I believe that with the capacity and the determination and the political will that we have available, and the messages and the level of mobilization, the level of commitment and the capacity of the personnel that we have, and the improved synergy in terms of working relationship between the military and other security operatives, I believe sincerely that within 60 to 90 days, we can be able to crack down these guys. How many are they? They are not up to 3,000 in number, all of them. They are not spread in all the wards, all the political wards, all the polling units, all the local government, and so on and so forth. So why can't we target them? We know where they are, we know where they are sleeping. And all the community members know who they are. Why can't the community members, the community leaders be held accountable for providing information, or else they will be prosecuted? Until and unless we are ready to hold people accountable, until and unless we are ready to hold those we have given responsibility accountable for A, B, C, D, E, F, G that has been happening, that is when we can be able to manage this situation. Until and unless government and the security operatives on ground are ready to partner with people like me and others who are working hard, who are contributing voluntarily, who are working for the country, who are working patriotically, we can, because I have so many information that military doesn't have. I can mobilize, generate information that the DSS cannot access it. So why can't we partner? Why can't we work together? Why can't we improve the relationship between myself and my company and other companies and other individuals who are committing, who have committed themselves,
Yeah,
and
I need
who
to
have
ask you
demonstrated ability and
this,
capability
just for perspective. So I know
to help the
Ramsey has
system.
a question or two to throw in real quick, but he asked you, I mean, my colleague a while ago, he was talking about, of course, he made a reference to the fighter jets that Nigeria is expecting next year. Now we're hearing this purchase is going to be made from Italy. All right. Ordinarily, before now, we know when this sort of exchange, so to speak, is going to happen, it will usually take place between Nigeria and the United States, especially when we talk about Tucano jets and what have you. But now we are turning all the way from the US to Italy. Is it possible you have some insights into the reason for this sort of developments?
Well, it may be difficult because that is something to do with development objective, or what I will call the memorandum of understanding. Probably there are some gray areas which both the two countries are trying to work on, based on diplomatic understanding, and then some other conceptual issues that I cannot discuss on air. But I believe that since a statement has been made, there is that indicates some level of commitment. And even without those fighter jets, we can still invest into technology based on the cybersecurity and expert that we have, and based on the other intelligence machineries that we have, and based on the local intelligence gathering machineries using the available. You know, you have to use the available when the desirable is not available. And I believe so much that we have available resources. And if we can utilize it well, and if we can manage what we have in terms of the capacity, the ability, the personnel, and so on and so forth, we can be able to manage this situation even without waiting for those fighter jets that are coming next year.
Oh, okay, thank you very much, Mr. YAHUZA. Let me ask you this question now, because you made mention of the fact that these people are part of the community, and of course collaborating with some community leaders may at least bring up the solution of how these people can be captured. Let's look at it from this perspective. Do you believe in the school of thought that calling these people for dialogue, talking with them, like some persons have actually suggested in the past, will have any good way forward? Because these terrorists have done a lot of damage to the country. But now some persons are saying, well, let's come to the round table, let's talk, what do you want us to do? Is that the best way to go? If not, then what do you think is the most necessary thing to do?
I never believe in dialogue. I never believe in dialoguing with criminals, and I will never support dialogue because I know who they are, I know where they are, and I believe that the community know who they are, know where they are, and the security agencies and the government itself know who they are, and they are too minute for government to start kind of dialoguing with them, because conducting dialogue with them will initiate a more dangerous, will be more havoc, more dangerous, will create a serious chaos, and that will give another preference for other criminal thoughts, other school of thought of another criminality. Before we have only Boko Haram. Now we have the buzz of ISWAP. We have the buzz of banditry and kidnapping. We have the buzz of Fulani militia. We have the buzz of all others. So I don't believe that in dialogue. Dialogue will only create and initiate a new school of thought that will be very dangerous and more create more series of criminalities in the later future and very near future for Nigeria. I don't believe in dialogue, and I don't think it's the alternative. And Nigeria will be the biggest mistake Nigerian government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the rest will do in tackling this issue to introduce the issue of dialogue. I don't believe in that.
Okay, let me just say this now, because we'll soon be rounding up. But then let me say this. For the fact that you have said some persons in the community, especially the community leaders, know who these people are, don't you think, since it's a collective effort and the country is ours, belongs to everybody, don't you think they should go and meet with the authorities and give vital information that will lead to the arrest of these terrorists? Why are they not doing that? Is there anything they want the government to do, especially before they give necessary information that will lead to the eradication of these terrorists?
Well, there are several reasons to that. One is a loss of confidence and trust by the public on the security, on the serving security in the respective areas. Two, there is outline corruption that has eaten us deeply and is eating us deeply. We are diving into its river, which we need to work hard, because the stop and search points that you have in almost all parts of the country, especially in the areas where we are having this criminality, is really those who are checkpoints are compromising. They are collecting tokens. They don't really conduct a real search. And probably there is inadequacy of the manpower to conduct a more closer supervision and monitoring and so on and so forth. So, and then number four, the subject of lack of inadequate personnel. And then number five, there is issue of some unscrupulous element among the security personnel who have been exposing the whistleblowers, those who have been providing information about the tactical activities, the movements, and other things, the relationship between some other unscrupulous elements, members of the public, whereby if you report, in most cases, when you provide report to the security agencies, at the end of it, some unscrupulous element will relay the information to the security, to the criminals at the forest, and tell them that Mr. A, Mr. B from so-so house, from so-so town, from so-so village is the one who will relate this information at so-so hours and so-so time. So the person will be attacked, and not only the person, his entire village or entire communities around, and so on and so forth. So this has made it very difficult for many other members of the public to have trust and confidence on the security, so that to provide the right information.
Right.
However, I'm sure that happens in many years. You know, when you have a long-lasting security challenges, it's not something that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu can be able to manage and handle within 4 years, because it's something that has been there over time.
True.
And then you are fighting somebody that you don't know.
Yes,
But I said that those guys, the community members, the community leaders, the security operatives, no divisional police officer in the areas where these criminals are conducting this atrocity.
All hands have to be on deck. I guess that's what you're saying.